So welcome back to the channel. We've done a little work. Actually, just the work was let it dry, and as you can kind of tell, the results came out really nice. I'm still looking at this, and this is really starting to get smooth. Another skim coat on that's going to be fantastic. But what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to take and just do a real quick sand of these areas that we did yesterday, and then I'm going to put a quick top coat on this all across the top, stopping it about here. So that's where we're going. So we've gone back and just really kind of light sanded in some areas so that we can kind of protect what's kind of going on, make it a little smooth, and we're going to apply this next bunch of epoxy. I think what I am going to do is come back and get this coaming here first and get that all taken care of, and then we'll start coming down here in these other areas and start squeegeeing those out. Now, I did see something. That was a little interesting. Of course, we want to break all this stuff off because we want a clean surface. So when we're going to take and do this skim, we want to make sure that we've got a clean edge to work with. So this was, I saw this, you took a block plane and you take it against your piece there, and that's going to give you a really nice edge. And then they also said to kind of varnish, rub it against your shirt. I'm going to rub it against this leather, kind of sharpen that up a little bit more, and make sure there's all the dirts off of it, because you don't want to transfer that to what you're working on. So this should be good, and I'm going to mix up some epoxy, and we're going to go ahead and epoxy this on. Well, we've got the skim coat, the very first one on, and it looks great. Not all of the fiberglass is fully encapsulated, but that's okay. That's what our third coat is going to be. We'll let this one here dry for the day. I don't know if we'll come out here tonight. We may. But what we may do is, if this is all dry, I think what I would do is probably flip it over and put a second coat under on the opposite side. So then they're both being actually in the same kind of process step. And once those dry, then we're going to sand everything down, and we'll do the same thing again. The next one won't be as much material because a lot of the weave has been encapsulated. So I did a little over here on this side just to kind of move a little forward, and it's really starting where that transition is starting to go away. So this is going to look good. The colors are really rich, and I do think that what we'll end up doing is the cowling there, where we've got that filler in there, we'll take and do a little work on that. But other than that, we're going to call it quits for now. Hey, well, welcome back. It is a little bit later on. It's about 8 o'clock in the evening, and I've went ahead and flipped this over and have done a little sanding on it. I want to take and put down some some denatured alcohol on it just to get it all clean. But I'm kind of looking at a couple places here. I think I need to just sand a little bit more. But we're going to try to get the hull completely top coat with a kind of a seal coat or a skim coat, at least to start working on getting it a little bit smoother. I see a few areas I'm going to take and sand up a little bit. So let's get right on it. Well, we've got the first skin coat on there, and I probably should have taken a little bit more time to cut down some of this, but I was afraid I was going to get into the epoxy. So the next time I will. Oops, I see a drip. Let's get back up here and make sure all of these are not going anywhere. And we're still going to have to spend some time on this, just because we're still getting the fiberglass coming through. But of course, this is still only the second coat. We'll sand this down again, get it a whole lot smoother, put another coat on, and then there's going to be the 3 or 5 coats of varnish that'll go on this. So we're going to call it quits for this evening. I'm just taking a last look to see if there's any other drips that I need to take care of. And it looks like we're about as good as we're getting. You can see probably here these kind of spidery things. They're still lifted up a little bit, but we'll get those down the next time. But feeling pretty comfortable. I'm still not quite sure if, with this one here, whether we're going to paint it or not. It's possible that we may still kind of come in here and do a paint line somewhere, you know, about where the water line is, but time will tell. We'll make this really nice from this standpoint, and if we need to add on, we will. We'll paint it black or dark green or white or something. So I think that's it for tonight. Let's get back tomorrow and we'll see what this looks like. So it came back out in the morning. It's a crisp morning out. It's probably in the 50s, but it's supposed to warm up, and it's kind of a little odd for 4th of July weekend. But I did come out, and as we kind of talked about yesterday, there was still, you know, there was a lot of work that still needed to be done as we kind of look at, and you can probably see it, I don't know, through here, just this, when we kind of feathered that in, I probably knew I didn't do that good of a job doing it. So but I went ahead and I epoxied anyway, because I didn't want to get too deep into this fiberglass. So epoxied anyway. And now that it's actually laying in there pretty nice, you know, the weave is not up as much. There's still some, but not as much. And so I started sanding here, and you can be a little bit more aggressive now, because that fiberglass has been buried in there. And as you can kind of tell, we're starting to get this down a little bit, and I'll continue to work with it until it is smooth. And then our next coat should be pretty good. These were some pretty deep ones. They're still, you know, I still feel them in here, and I'll get in here and continue to sand those down until they get pretty smooth. But then the second coat is really going to work well. I'm still kind of debating, because one of the things you've really got to watch out for, I didn't look at it as much. I don't know if you could see that. There's some putty marks, and those aren't coming out. Those aren't coming out at all. Those will just be a part of the boat forever. Now, the one thing that I could do is possibly paint this, because this was another flaw here. This should have been on the inside. This one here was on the outside, so that was okay. But that should have been on the inside. Here's the one on the outside. So we'll kind of keep working through this. I want to kind of be a little bit sparse on all of our epoxy, just because I still need to do these 2 8-ounce pours that I want to put in the bow on both of these, so that we can kind of beef that up a little bit. But, you know, I still need to do the first skim coat on this and do a second skim coat on this one. So we need to kind of be careful a little bit on what we're using. We've got quite a bit for now. I just spent another $128 to get that in. So we're going to just take and go back in and start the work day, and we'll get on this on the weekend. Also, as soon as I get these a certain point, man, I need to clean this place because it's a mess. So we're feeling pretty good about it. We're just gonna go back in and, but we'll come out and start sanding a little later. So one of the things that I did do last evening is I came out and I spent some time just in here cleaning up. I mean, it was a mess. So I hope, you know, that with a little bit of time, that it was well spent. I didn't do everything, but I was at least able to just clean up all of the junk that was all over here. Make it a little bit better. But one thing that we are going to do today, we're going to work outside just because of all the sanding that we're going to do. So the idea here is we've got 2 epoxy coats on the outside, but we're going to do a third. I just really wasn't that happy with, you know, some of the flaring as the fiberglass came into the hull. So we're going to take care of that. And any other little niblet thing that we've got, we're going to do that. But then we're going to get the other one down, and I think I'm going to do a little bit better job of blending this in. You don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, you'll get into that weave, and we don't want to do that. That only has 1 coat on it, but that one was done so much better, so I don't think we're going to have that big of a deal. This one here, I spent a little bit more time with, but it is feeling great, looking great. I'm happy with it, but let's get it outside. So I've not taken these things down all the way. I can still feel areas there, but you know, when you start seeing the fiberglass starting to come up, that's really enough, because what we're going to do is we're going to take another coat. Now down here it's a little rougher. Now we may take a little work on this right here, but we put another skim coat on there. This should all clean up really nice. We don't have to do much up here. I am going to take a sander over that, but we're not going to put another skim coat up here. It's just along these sides here. I did take, and you probably saw me very quickly using this blade, and this does allow us to shave some of the high spots off, which is actually great, because that's all it's doing, is just shaving the high spots. We're not really taking anything and cutting in everything. So I highly recommend you getting one of these. This will come a little bit more in handy when we start getting the varnish and some other areas where we may have some drips and we just don't want to get into everything else sanding it. You can do this and it could take off the top. I'm probably going to do this on this side a little bit more so that I don't have to sand as much. But let's just continue on. So I think we've got this one well enough to get in here and put a another skim coat on. It's really starting to lay down really nice. I don't want to get too deep in it, but we're going to put this one off to the side, bring some sawhorses out here and set this on this, and then we'll bring out the other one. So you have to remember that this one's not as far as along. It's only had one coat of epoxy, and this is all up here is still all raw. So we need to come in here and sand these out. A lot of this is done by hand. I'm going to try to keep this out of the sun as much as possible. I think I'm going to move this down this way as the sun comes up. Actually, it'll start hiding a little bit. But let's just go ahead and take out a few hand tools, and we'll get in this right here with I'm gonna think we're gonna start out with some 80, and then I've got some 120 that we'll do in there, maybe some 100, but we'll do a lot of this by hand. So let's get cracking. We're able to do this all with 80, and I did go down to a 60 on some, so I'm just gonna come back here and kind of just feather this out with a 150.